The chamber is open and full of whispers.
What if you could go back in time with the knowledge to prevent a war before it started? What if two battle-scarred survivors, adults who'd watched friends die, who'd hunted fragments of a dark soul across Britain, who'd sacrificed everything to destroy the darkest wizard in history, suddenly found themselves back in their 11-year-old bodies on the Hogwarts Express, September 1st, 1991. What if they remembered everything? The battles, the deaths, the Horcruxes, the prophecy, the exact sequence of events that would lead to Lord Voldemort's return and the Second Wizarding War? This isn't a story about children playing at being heroes. This is a story about two soldiers trapped in children's bodies, carrying trauma they can't explain and knowledge they shouldn't possess, trying to prevent a future that haunts their every waking moment. Today, we're exploring one of the most psychologically complex what-if scenarios in Harry Potter. What happens when Harry and Hermione travel back in time to year 1, armed with 7 years of war experience, complete knowledge of Voldemort's Horcruxes, and a soul bond that makes them functionally inseparable? This isn't a simple fix-it story, because knowing the future doesn't mean you can change it easily. And having adult minds in child bodies doesn't make you powerful. It makes you dangerous, unstable, and utterly terrifying to everyone around you, especially Albus Dumbledore. We'll explore how they'd systematically hunt Horcruxes years before canon, how their trauma would manifest in disturbing ways, how Dumbledore would react to two students who know things they couldn't possibly know, and most importantly, how a magical soul bond born from the time travel accident would transform their relationship from partnership into something far more complex and codependent. Because some bonds aren't forged by choice. Some bonds are accidents of magic that become survival mechanisms. And some love stories begin not with romance, but with two broken people recognizing that the other is the only thing keeping them from shattering completely. So let's explore what happens when Harry Potter and Hermione Granger become time-displaced soldiers, playing at being students, hunting Horcruxes in secret, and slowly realizing that the future they remember is already changing in ways they can't control. Cold open. The return. The Hogwarts Express platform was chaos. Families everywhere, saying goodbye to students. Owls hooting in cages, cats yowling, trunks being loaded onto the Scarlet steam engine. The noise was overwhelming, the crowd suffocating, the normalcy utterly surreal. Harry Potter stood frozen on the platform, his trunk at his feet, his mind screaming, "This isn't real. This can't be real." He was 11 years old. His body was small, weak, underdeveloped. His hands were smooth, unscarred. When he'd looked in the mirror that morning at the leaky cauldron, the face staring back had been young, unmarked by war, innocent in ways Harry hadn't been innocent since he was a baby. But his mind was 17, 18. However old he'd been when the spell had hit, when everything had gone wrong, when he and Hermione had been trying to... What had they been trying to do? The memory was hazy, obscured by temporal displacement and magical interference. Something with a time turner. Something desperate. Something that had gone catastrophically wrong and sent them... Harry. He turned. Hermione Granger stood 3 feet away, looking exactly as she had in their first year. Bushy brown hair, overlarge front teeth, Hogwarts robes that were slightly too big for her small frame. She looked like a child, but her eyes were ancient. "You remember," Harry said. Not a question. He could feel it. A pull in his chest, a certainty that went beyond logic. She remembered. She knew. She was the same as him. "Everything," Hermione confirmed, her voice barely above a whisper. "Harry, what happened? How did we—" "I don't know. The last thing I remember, we were in the Ministry. You had the time turner. The experimental one, not the one from 3rd year. We were trying to—" He stopped, his young voice cracking. "Hermione, everyone was dead. Ron was—" "I know." She stepped closer, and Harry felt that pull again, stronger now, like magnetism. Like his body was trying to merge with hers, to occupy the same space. "Harry, I can feel you. In my head, not thoughts exactly, but emotions? Presence? What is this?" "I don't know." But he did know, somewhere deep in his adult consciousness. This was a soul bond, created accidentally when they'd been displaced through time, tethering them together in ways that went beyond friendship or partnership. "Hermione, we need to talk. Privately. Now." They found an empty compartment on the train, the last one, At the very end of the carriage, Harry cast locking charms on the door with a silent flick of his wand, then privacy wards, then anti-eavesdropping enchantments. The magic came easily despite his child body's limited reserves. 7 years of war had taught him efficiency. Hermione watched him work, then added her own wards. When she finished, they sat facing each other, and for a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, Hermione said, "We're really here. September 1st, 1991. First year, yes. We have adult minds in child bodies, yes. We remember everything. The war, the Horcruxes, Voldemort's return, the Battle of Hogwarts, all of it. Yes. Then we can stop it." Hermione's voice was suddenly fierce. "Harry, we can stop all of it. We know where the Horcruxes are. We know when Voldemort returns. We know which Death Eaters to watch, which battles to prevent, which people to save. We can stop the war before it starts." Harry wanted to believe her, but something in him, the part that had watched Cedric die, that had seen Sirius fall through the veil, that had walked into the Forbidden Forest expecting to die, that part knew it couldn't be that simple. "We're 11, he said quietly. "We have the knowledge, but not the power. Not yet. Hermione, I can barely cast a shield charm right now without getting winded. My magical reserves are a fraction of what they were. We can't just hunt Horcruxes like we did before. Then we prepare. We train. We build our strength back up while gathering intelligence. Harry, we have 7 years before Voldemort returns to full power in the graveyard. 7 years to find and destroy every Horcrux, to expose Peter Pettigrew, to save Sirius, to prevent," her voice broke, "to prevent everyone from dying." Harry looked at her, really looked at her. Hermione's face was young, but her eyes were haunted. He could see the weight of everything she'd witnessed, everything she'd survived, the torture at Malfoy Manor, the war, the deaths. All of it compressed into an 11-year-old girl who shouldn't have to carry such burdens. "Okay," he said. "We do this together. But Hermione, we need rules. We need to be smart about this." "Agreed. First rule, we don't tell anyone. Not Dumbledore, not McGonagall, no one. Adults won't believe us, and even if they did, they'd try to control us. Second rule, we maintain our cover. We act like normal first years in public. No one can know what we really are. Third rule, we focus on the Horcruxes first. That's the priority. Everything else is secondary. Fourth rule, Harry hesitated, then said what they were both thinking. We protect each other. No matter what. If one of us is in danger, the other acts. No hesitation. No debate. Hermione nodded. Agreed. Harry, what is this? She gestured between them. This feeling. This pull. Soul bond, Harry said. I think the time displacement created it. Some kind of magical tethering. I can feel you too. Your emotions. Your presence. It's like you're part of me now. Can we break it? I don't know. Maybe. But Hermione, he met her eyes. Do we want to? Right now you're the only person in this entire world who understands what we're going through. The only person who knows the truth. If we break the bond, we'd be completely alone. Hermione was quiet for a long moment. Then, we keep it. For now, we can research it later, figure out what it means. But right now, you're right. We need each other. Then it's decided. We're a team, like we've always been, Hermione agreed. The train began to move. Through the window, Harry could see Hagrid waving from the platform, looking impossibly young and whole, not yet marked by the war that was coming. Not coming, Harry corrected himself. We're going to prevent it. We're going to save everyone? He just hoped they were strong enough to do it. The plan. Compartment stretchity session. Once the train was moving, and the countryside began to blur past the windows, Harry and Hermione got to work. We need to prioritize, Hermione said, pulling out a notebook, conjured from thin air with a casual flick of her wand that would have been impressive for a 7th year, let alone a 1st year. There are 7 Horcruxes, correct? Including Harry. She stopped, her face going pale. Oh God. Harry, you're still a Horcrux. The piece of Voldemort's soul is still in your scar. Harry touched his forehead instinctively. The lightning bolt scar was there, just as it had always been. And yes, deep in his mind, he could feel it. The foreign presence, the fragment of Voldemort that had been accidentally created when the killing curse rebounded. "We'll deal with that last," Harry said firmly. "We can't destroy it without killing me, so it's the final Horcrux. The others first." "Agreed. So the list: Tom Riddle's diary currently in Lucius Malfoy's possession, which he'll slip to Ginny Weasley in our second year. Marvolo Gaunt's ring, hidden in the Gaunt shack with a powerful curse. Helga Hufflepuff's cup, in Bellatrix Lestrange's Gringotts vault. Salazar Slytherin's locket, in the cave with the Inferi. Rowena Ravenclaw's diadem, hidden in the Room of Requirement. Nagini, who won't become a Horcrux until Voldemort's return. And you." "That's the list," Harry confirmed. "The question is, which ones can we actually get to right now?" Hermione tapped her quill against the notebook, thinking, "The diadem is the easiest. We know exactly where it is, and we can access the Room of Requirement. The ring is possible. The Gaunt shack is abandoned, and we know about the curse. If we're careful, we could retrieve it. The locket in the cave is dangerous, but doable if we prepare properly. The cup in Gringotts is nearly impossible. We'd need insider help and a way past the security measures. The diary we can intercept when Lucius tries to give it to Ginny, and Nagini doesn't exist as a Horcrux yet. So we focus on what's accessible, the diadem and the ring first. Then we plan for the locket and the diary. The cup we leave until we're older and stronger." "Agreed. But Harry, there's another problem. Destroying them. We need basilisk venom or fiend fire, and we don't have access to either right now." Harry smiled grimly. "Actually, we do. Or we will. The Chamber of Secrets opens in our second year, remember? When the basilisk is released. We can collect venom then. That's a year away. What do we do in the meantime? We prepare, we train, we build our magical strength back up, we gather intelligence. And Hermione," Harry leaned forward, "we need to deal with Peter Pettigrew." Hermione's expression hardened. "Scabbers, he's Ron's rat right now, hiding with the Weasley family. Harry, if we expose him, we can save Sirius. We can prove he's innocent. But how do we explain how we know? We don't explain, we act. Hermione, Scabbers will be on this train. Ron's in a compartment somewhere with his brothers. If we can get Peter alone, we can—" He paused. "What are we going to do with him?" The question hung in the air. In their original timeline, Peter had escaped, had helped resurrect Voldemort, had caused countless deaths through his cowardice and betrayal. Harry had watched him kill Cedric Diggory on Voldemort's orders. Hermione had nearly died because of intelligence Peter had provided to the Death Eaters. "We should kill him," Hermione said quietly, and the coldness in her voice made Harry's stomach clench. "He's going to cause so much death and suffering. If we kill him now, we prevent all of it. We're 11. We're not 11. We're adults in children's bodies. We've killed before, Harry. You killed Voldemort. I killed Bellatrix. We're not innocent children. We're soldiers." She was right. They had killed. In the war, in the final battle, they'd done what was necessary to survive. But that had been combat life-or-death situations with no other choice. This would be execution. "We can't kill him on the train," Harry said finally. "Too many witnesses. Too much risk. But we can capture him. Interrogate him. Use him as an asset. How? Memory charms. Modified Imperius. We make him forget this encounter, but we implant a magical marker, a trigger we can activate later, in third year, when we're ready to expose him publicly. We get the information we need now, then we let him go back to playing the rat, none the wiser." Hermione considered this. "That's dark magic, Harry. Memory modification to that degree. Imperius is an unforgivable curse." "I know. Are you willing to do it anyway?" She met his eyes, and Harry saw the same hardness there that he felt in himself. This wasn't the Hermione who'd cried over house elves and worried about breaking school rules. This was the Hermione who'd been tortured by Bellatrix, who'd obliviated her parents to protect them, who'd helped destroy Horcruxes and watched friends die. "Yes," she said, "I'm willing. Then we do it. Today. We find Scabbers, we capture him, we get what we need, and we let him go. And in 3 years, when we're ready, we activate the trigger and watch him fall." They sat in silence for a moment, both processing what they just agreed to. They were planning to use unforgivable curses on a person, to manipulate and control him, to treat him as an asset rather than a human being. They were becoming exactly what the war had made them: ruthless, efficient, willing to do whatever was necessary to win. "Harry," Hermione said quietly, "are we the good guys anymore?" "I don't know," Harry admitted. "But we're the ones who know what's coming. We're the ones who can stop it. If that makes us the bad guys, then I'll live with that." Hermione nodded slowly. "Okay, then let's find Ron Weasley's rat." The rat Scabbers captured. Finding Ron wasn't difficult. Harry and Hermione simply walked through the train until they heard his voice, loud, complaining about something, punctuated by his brother's laughter. They were in a compartment near the middle of the train. Ron, Fred, George, and Percy. "We need to get Ron alone," Hermione whispered. "Or at least separate him from Scabbers." "How? We can't just walk in and ask to see his rat." "No, but we can create a distraction." Hermione pulled out her wand and cast a silent spell down the corridor. A moment later, there was a loud bang from the compartment 3 doors down, followed by screams and the sound of breaking glass. Fred and George immediately rushed out to investigate. Weasley twins and explosions were a natural pairing. Percy followed, pompously announcing that as a prefect, he needed to assess the situation. That left Ron alone. "Now," Harry said. They entered the compartment. Ron looked up, surprised to see 2 first-years he didn't recognize. "Oh, hello," Ron said, a bit awkwardly. "I'm Ron Weasley. Are you first-years too?" "Harry Potter," Harry said, watching Ron's eyes widen in recognition at the name. "And this is Hermione Granger." "Blimey, Harry Potter. Is it true you've got—" Ron gestured at his own forehead. "The scar?" "Yes." Harry pushed his fringe back, revealing the lightning bolt. "Listen, Ron. We need your help with something." "My help? What could I possibly help Harry Potter with?" "Your rat," Hermione said, her voice carefully casual. "Scabbers. Could we see him? I'm researching common British rat species for a project, and I'd love to examine him briefly." It was a terrible lie. What first-year would have a research project before even reaching Hogwarts? But Ron, eager to help the famous Harry Potter and flattered by the attention, didn't question it. "Sure, I guess. He's not very interesting, though. Just sleeps most of the time." Ron pulled Scabbers out of his pocket, a fat, balding rat with a missing toe. "Here he is." Harry felt a surge of rage so intense he had to physically hold himself back from casting a killing curse right there. This rat. This pathetic, cowardly creature had betrayed his parents, had caused their deaths, had spent 12 years hiding while Sirius rotted in Azkaban for crimes Peter had committed. Hermione must have felt Harry's rage through the soul bond, because her hand found his beneath the table, squeezing tightly. "Control yourself," her touch seemed to say. "We have a plan. Stick to it." "Could we hold him?" Hermione asked. "Just for a moment." Ron handed Scabbers over. The moment the rat touched Hermione's hands, she cast a silent bodybind on him, freezing him instantly. Ron didn't notice. He was distracted by something outside the window. "We need privacy," Harry murmured. "Ron, would you mind checking if your brothers are okay?" That explosion sounded serious. "Oh, right, yeah." Ron stood up. "Will you be all right with Scabbers? He doesn't bite or anything." "We'll be fine," Hermione assured him. The moment Ron left the compartment, Harry locked the door and cast every privacy ward he knew. Silencing charms, anti-eavesdropping enchantments, muggle-repelling wards. By the time he finished, the compartment was a sealed bubble. Nothing in, nothing out. Hermione placed the frozen rat on the seat and pointed her wand at him. "Finite incantatum. Homorphous. Revelo." The combination of spells forced a transformation. Scabbers began to shift, bones cracking and reforming, fur receding, until a small balding man sat where the rat had been, Peter Pettigrew, looking terrified and confused. "What? How did you? Where am I?" Peter's eyes darted around frantically, taking in the 2 children pointing wands at him with expressions far too cold for their ages. "Hello, Peter," Harry said quietly. "We need to talk. I don't know who you think I am, but I'm not. Peter Pettigrew, animagus, rat form, missing right toe, which you sacrificed to fake your death and frame Sirius Black for murder. Betrayer of James and Lily Potter to Lord Voldemort. Shall I continue?" Peter's face went white. "How do you know that?" "Who are you?" "I'm Harry Potter, and this is Hermione Granger." "And Peter, you're going to tell us everything." "I won't. I can't. He'll kill me if I... Voldemort is gone, Hermione said coldly. For now, he won't return to power for 3 more years, and when he does, you won't be there to help him. Because we're going to make sure of that. I don't understand. Your children. How do you know about— That's not your concern, Harry interrupted. What is your concern is answering our questions truthfully. Because, Peter, if you lie to us, if you refuse to cooperate, we will make you wish you died with James and Lily. Peter looked between them, seeing something in their eyes that made him recoil. Whatever he saw there, the hardness, the ruthlessness, the absolute lack of childish innocence, it terrified him. What do you want to know? He whispered. They interrogated him for 20 minutes, asked him about the Marauders, about the betrayal, about his time with the Weasleys, about his plans for the future. Peter answered everything, his voice shaking, occasionally breaking down into sobs. When they were done, Hermione cast a complex series of memory charms, not to erase his memory entirely, but to modify it. Peter would remember being on the train, remember being a rat, but this encounter would be buried deep, accessible only by a specific trigger that Harry and Hermione would activate in 3 years. Then she did something that made Harry's stomach turn. She cast a modified Imperious Curse. Not the full curse. That would have been too obvious, too controlling, but a subtle compulsion, layered deep in Peter's subconscious. When they were ready, when they activated the trigger, Peter would confess everything. He wouldn't be able to stop himself. Is it done? Harry asked. It's done. When we activate the trigger in 3 years, he'll transform in front of witnesses and confess to his crimes. Sirius will be freed. Justice will be served. Transform him back. We need to return him to Ron before his brothers come back. Hermione cast the transformation spell. Peter became Scabbers again, fat, balding, sleeping peacefully as if nothing had happened. When Ron returned a few minutes later, they handed the rat back with smiles and thanks. Find what you needed for your research? Ron asked. Yes, Hermione said. Thank you so much for your help. They left the compartment and returned to their own, not speaking until the privacy wards were back up. Then Hermione turned to Harry, and he saw that she was shaking. We just used an unforgivable curse, she said. Harry, we tortured a man's mind. We're 11 years old and we did what was necessary, Harry said firmly, though his own hands were trembling. Hermione, I know this is hard. I know what we just did was dark and terrible and wrong by every moral standard we were raised with. But in 3 years, when we activate that trigger and Peter confesses, Sirius will go free. He'll have 12 years of his life back. He'll be able to be my godfather, to actually raise me, to have the life he was denied. That's worth it. Isn't it worth it? I don't know, Hermione whispered. I want to say yes. I want to believe the ends justify the means. But Harry, what if we're wrong? What if we're making ourselves into monsters to fight monsters? Then we're monsters who save lives, Harry said. Hermione, look at me. We've already decided we're going to do whatever it takes to stop Voldemort, to prevent the war, to save everyone who died in our original timeline. That means getting our hands dirty. That means making hard choices. That means becoming people we might not like very much. But it also means Ron doesn't get poisoned by a love potion. Cedric doesn't die in a graveyard. Sirius doesn't fall through the veil. Fred doesn't die in the Battle of Hogwarts. Everyone we loved who died. That's what we're fighting for. Hermione was crying now, silent tears streaming down her young face. I'm scared, Harry. I'm scared of what we're becoming. I'm scared of what we're willing to do. I'm scared that by the time we win, there won't be anything good left of us. Harry pulled her into a hug, feeling the soul bond pulse between them, a warm, grounding presence that reminded him he wasn't alone in this. I'm scared too, he admitted. But Hermione, I'd rather be a monster who saves everyone than a hero who watches them die. Wouldn't you? She was quiet for a long moment. Then, against his shoulder, yes, I would. They held each other as the train raced toward Hogwarts. 2 children who weren't really children anymore, carrying burdens they shouldn't have to carry, making choices they shouldn't have to make. Welcome to the war, their younger selves. Welcome to the war. Arrival, Hogwarts, and the sorting. The sorting ceremony was surreal. Harry stood in the Great Hall with the other first years, listening to McGonagall explain the 4 houses, watching the Sorting Hat sing its song. Everything was exactly as he remembered. The floating candles, the enchanted ceiling showing the night sky, the older students watching with varying degrees of interest. But he wasn't the same person who'd stood here 7 years ago. That Harry had been nervous, excited, hoping to be placed in Gryffindor because it sounded brave and heroic. This Harry knew exactly what each house meant, knew the people he'd meet in Gryffindor, knew the dormitory layout and the common room password, and every secret passage in the castle. Granger, Hermione. Hermione walked to the stool with perfect composure, no nervousness, no excitement, just calm efficiency. The sorting hat was placed on her head. Harry felt a spike of alarm through the soul bond. The hat was in Hermione's mind. Could it tell that she was time-displaced? Could it sense that her consciousness was adult, not child? The minutes ticked by. 1, 2, 3. This was taking too long. A sorting was usually instantaneous. Finally, the hat spoke aloud. Gryffindor! Hermione walked to the Gryffindor table, and Harry caught her eye. She gave him a small nod. It knows, her expression said, but it's not telling. More names were called. Harry waited, forcing himself to appear nervous and excited like the other first years. Potter, Harry. The whispers started immediately. Harry Potter. The boy who lived. Harry walked to the stool, sat down and felt the hat settle over his eyes. The hat's voice said in his mind. Most interesting. 2 students with adult consciousnesses, time displaced, carrying memories they shouldn't possess. Tell me, Harry Potter, should I alert the headmaster? Please don't, Harry thought desperately. We're trying to prevent a war. We need time to prepare. If Dumbledore knows now, he'll interfere. And why should I trust that your intentions are pure? You've already used an unforgivable curse today. I can see it in your memories. The modified Imperius you placed on Peter Pettigrew. That's dark magic, young man. That's not the path of light. I know. But it was necessary. Peter betrayed my parents. He's going to help resurrect Voldemort. If we don't stop him, if you don't stop him, history unfolds as it did before. Are you certain you should be changing the timeline? Are you certain you have the wisdom to make these decisions? No, Harry admitted. I'm not certain of anything, but I know what happened in my timeline. I know who died. I know the cost of inaction. And I'd rather try to save them and fail than sit back and let it happen again. The hat was quiet for a long moment. Then, very well, I'll keep your secret. But Harry Potter, I'm placing you in Gryffindor with Miss Granger, because I suspect you'll need each other to maintain your humanity through what's coming. Don't prove me wrong about your capacity for good. Don't become the very evil you're trying to prevent. I'll try. That's all any of us can do. Gryffindor. The hat was removed, and Harry walked to the Gryffindor table to applause. He sat next to Hermione, feeling relief wash through him. The hat knows, Hermione whispered. It can sense that we're not normal first years, but it's not telling. It's giving us a chance. Then we better not waste it. The feast began. Food appeared on the golden plates, and the great hall filled with the noise of conversation and laughter. Harry forced himself to eat, to participate in small talk with the other Gryffindor first years, to act like a normal 11-year-old. But his mind was already racing ahead. First-year goals. Access the room of requirement. Begin physical training to rebuild magical stamina. Research Horcrux destruction methods. Prepare for second year and the opening of the Chamber of Secrets. And through it all, maintain the cover. Act like children. Be underestimated. Stay hidden until they were strong enough to act openly. It was going to be a long 7 years. First night. The soul bond intensifies. The Gryffindor common room was exactly as Harry remembered it. Red and gold, warm and welcoming, full of comfortable chairs and crackling fire. The first years were led to their dormitories, boys to one spiral staircase, girls to another. Wait, Hermione said, her hand catching Harry's arm. Harry, I don't think I can be separated from you. Not yet. Harry felt it too, the soul bond pulling tighter, creating anxiety at the thought of being in separate rooms. It was irrational, but the feeling was overwhelming. We'll make it work, Harry said quietly. We have to. We can't share a dormitory without raising questions. Then we meet back down here, after everyone's asleep. Please, Harry, I need to know you're there. Okay, I'll come back down. I promise. They separated reluctantly. Harry followed the other boys, Ron Weasley, Neville Longbottom, Dean Thomas, Seamus Finnegan, up to their dormitory. 5 four-poster beds, 5 trunks, 5 sets of curtains that could be drawn for privacy. The other boys were excited, talking about Quidditch and classes, and what Hogwarts would be like. Harry participated minimally, unpacking his trunk, changing into pajamas, acting tired. Finally, everyone settled into bed. The lights went out. Harry waited until he heard the deep, steady breathing of sleep from the other beds. Then he slipped out. Hermione was waiting in the common room, curled in a chair by the dying fire. When she saw Harry, the relief on her face was palpable. "I couldn't sleep," she admitted. "Every time I closed my eyes, all I could see was everything. The war, the deaths, and I kept feeling like you weren't there, like I'd lost you, and I started to panic." "Me too." Harry sat beside her, and immediately the anxiety eased. The soul bond settled, content now that they were together. "Hermione, this is going to be a problem. We can't spend every night sitting in the common room together. Someone will notice." "I know, but I don't know how to turn it off. This bond, it's like it has a mind of its own. It wants us together. It gets anxious when we're apart. We need to research it. Figure out what it is, how it works, whether we can control it or at least manage it better." "Agreed. Tomorrow, we start researching in the library." But for tonight, Hermione looked at him, her young face exhausted and vulnerable. "Can we just stay here? Together? I promise I'll try to sleep in my own bed tomorrow night. But tonight, I just need to know you're here." "I'm here," Harry said. "I'm not going anywhere." They sat together in the darkness, not speaking, just existing in each other's presence. The soul bond hummed contentedly between them. Eventually, Hermione fell asleep, her head on Harry's shoulder. Harry stayed awake longer, watching the fire die down to embers, thinking about everything that lay ahead. 7 Horcruxes to destroy, a war to prevent, a Dark Lord to defeat, and 2 children pretending to be something they weren't, carrying trauma they couldn't share, bound together by magic they didn't understand. "We can do this," Harry thought. "We have to do this." Through the soul bond, he felt Hermione's sleeping mind respond with wordless agreement. They would do this. Together. Always together. First week establishing the routine. The first week at Hogwarts was an exercise in deception. In public, Harry and Hermione were model students, attentive in class, eager to learn, appropriately excited about magic. Hermione answered questions, though she deliberately held back, not wanting to appear too knowledgeable. Harry participated in flying lessons, restraining his natural talent to avoid attention. They made friends with their housemates, joined study groups, attended meals in the Great Hall. They were, in every visible way, normal first years. In private, they were something else entirely. Every night after their dorm mates fell asleep, Harry and Hermione met in the common room. They discovered that the soul bond's separation anxiety could be managed if they spent at least an hour together each evening, talking, planning, simply existing in each other's space. "I think it's getting easier," Hermione said on their 5th night. "The anxiety when we're apart, it's still there, but it's less intense than the first day." "Maybe the bond is adjusting to the reality of our situation," Harry suggested. "It knows we can't be together constantly, so it's learning to cope. Or we're learning to cope with it. Either way, I'll take the improvement." They were sitting in their usual spot, 2 armchairs pulled close together by the fire. Hermione had a stack of books on magical theory. Harry was reviewing his mental notes on Horcrux locations. "I've been thinking about our timeline," Harry said. "We need to prioritize which Horcruxes to go after and when." "Agreed. What's your assessment?" "The diadem is accessible immediately. We can find the room of requirement. I know the exact location and the method to open it. We could retrieve the diadem within the next few weeks, but we can't destroy it yet. We don't have basilisk venom or fiend fire." "Right, so we retrieve it, hide it somewhere secure, and destroy it later when we have the means. That's 1 Horcrux secured. The diary is next. Lucius Malfoy won't try to slip it to Ginny Weasley until next year. We have time to prepare for that interception." "We could steal it from him directly," Harry suggested. "Break into Malfoy Manor, take the diary before he ever gets a chance to use it. Too risky. We're first years. We don't have the magical power or the resources for a heist like that. Better to wait and catch it when Lucius makes his move." "Fine. What about the ring?" Hermione pulled out a book, Secrets of the Darkest Art, which she'd borrowed from the restricted section using a forged note from Professor Flitwick. "The ring is in the Gaunt Shack, which is abandoned. but it's protected by a powerful curse. The same curse that eventually kills Dumbledore in our original timeline. We can't just grab it. We need to prepare carefully, research the counter curse, approach it with proper protections. So the ring is doable, but requires extensive preparation. What's our timeline on that? End of first year at the earliest. Probably summer break or early second year. We need to be stronger, more knowledgeable, better equipped. The locket. In the cave, guarded by inferi and dark magic. That's third or fourth year material. We're not ready for that yet. And the cup in Gringotts is completely inaccessible until we're significantly older and more powerful. Which leaves Nagini, who doesn't become a Horcrux until Voldemort's return, and, Hermione's voice softened, and you, the Horcrux in your scar. Harry touched his forehead reflexively. The scar was there, and beneath it, he could feel the foreign presence. Voldemort's soul fragment, parasitic and wrong. We save that for last, Harry said. When all the other Horcruxes are destroyed and Voldemort is mortal again, then we deal with my Horcrux. Not before. But Harry, how do we destroy it without killing you? In our original timeline, you walked into the Forbidden Forest and let Voldemort cast the killing curse. The Horcrux was destroyed, but you survived because... She paused. Because Voldemort had used your blood in his resurrection ritual, tethering you to life. But in this timeline, Voldemort hasn't been resurrected yet. If we prevent his return entirely, how do we destroy your Horcrux? It was a good question. In the original timeline, Harry had died and come back because of very specific magical circumstances that might not exist in this altered timeline. I don't know, Harry admitted, but we have 7 years to figure it out, one problem at a time. Agreed. So our short-term goals: find the Room of Requirement, retrieve the diadem, research the ring's curse, prepare for intercepting the diary next year. Medium term, build our magical strength, learn advanced defensive magic, prepare for the Chamber of Secrets opening. Long term, everything else. That's a solid plan. They sat in silence for a moment, both processing the enormity of what they were attempting. Harry, Hermione said quietly, do you think we're actually going to succeed? Do you think we can really prevent the war? I have to believe we can. Because if we can't, if we fail and everyone dies again, I don't think I could survive that twice. Me neither. Hermione reached for his hand, and Harry took it, feeling the soul bond pulse warmly between them. We'll succeed. We have to. Together, always together. It was becoming their refrain, their promise, their anchor. No matter what happened, no matter how dark things got, they would face it together, because that's what the soul bond had given them, each other. Permanently, irrevocably, for better or worse. And right now, that was enough. The Room of Requirement. First Horcrux secured. Finding the Room of Requirement took 3 weeks. Harry knew the general location. 7th floor, opposite the tapestry of Barnabas the Barmy being clubbed by trolls. But knowing where it was and actually making it appear were 2 different things. We need to want something, Hermione said as they paced back and forth in front of the blank wall for the 7th time. The room responds to need. We need to clearly focus on what we want. I am focusing. I want the room where the diadem is hidden. Maybe you need to be more specific. The room has existed for centuries. Thousands of people have hidden things in it. You need to identify exactly which version of the room you need. Harry stopped pacing. The room where Voldemort hid the diadem. The room of hidden things. The room filled with centuries of junk, where a Ravenclaw artifact is concealed among thousands of other objects. He walked past the wall 3 times, concentrating fiercely on that exact image. On the 3rd pass, a door appeared. We did it, Hermione breathed. Harry, we actually did it. They entered the Room of Requirement, and Harry's breath caught. He'd forgotten how massive it was. Rows upon rows of hidden objects, stacked floor to ceiling, creating narrow corridors and dead ends. Furniture, books, cauldrons, paintings, statues, centuries of Hogwarts students hiding things they didn't want found. The diadem is on a bust, Harry said. A stone bust of an old wizard, wearing the diadem like a crown. But there are thousands of busts in here. It'll take hours to find the right one. Then we search systematically. We each take a section and work through it methodically. They searched for 2 hours, calling out to each other periodically to confirm they were still within earshot. The soul bond helped. Harry could feel Hermione's presence even when he couldn't see her, could sense her general direction and emotional state. Finally, Harry, I found it. Harry rushed through the maze of hidden objects to find Hermione standing in front of a bust, staring at the tarnished diadem resting on its head. That's it, Harry confirmed. Ravenclaw's diadem. One of Voldemort's Horcruxes. Hermione reached for it, then hesitated. Is it safe to touch? It didn't kill anyone in our original timeline. The Horcrux is dormant unless someone tries to use it or destroy it improperly. Just don't put it on. Hermione carefully lifted the diadem from the bust. It was a beautiful piece, delicate silver filigree with a blue gemstone, engraved with Ravenclaw's motto, "Wit beyond measure is man's greatest treasure." Hard to believe something this beautiful contains a piece of Voldemort's soul, Hermione murmured. Evil often wears beautiful faces, Harry said grimly. That's what makes it dangerous. What do we do with it now? We can't destroy it yet. We hide it. Somewhere in this room, somewhere even Voldemort wouldn't think to look if he came back here. They found a suitable location, a broken cabinet that had been shoved into a corner and half buried under broken furniture. Harry placed the diadem inside. Then Hermione cast protective enchantments. Notice me not charms, muggle-repelling wards, even a mild confundus charm that would make anyone who got close suddenly remember they needed to be elsewhere. That should hold it until we're ready to destroy it, Hermione said. 1 Horcrux secured. 6 to go. They left the room of requirement, making sure the door disappeared completely behind them. As they walked back toward Gryffindor Tower, Harry felt a weight lift slightly from his shoulders. They'd done it. They'd secured their first Horcrux. It was a small victory, but it was progress. We're actually doing this, Harry said quietly. We're actually changing things. We are, Hermione agreed. Harry, we've been here a month, and we've already accomplished more than Dumbledore managed in 6 years of our original timeline. We captured Peter, we secured the diadem, we're preparing for the chamber and the ring. We're on track. We're ahead of schedule, actually. If we keep this pace, we could have all the Horcruxes destroyed by 5th year, Hermione finished. Maybe even 4th year. Which means when Voldemort tries to return in the graveyard, he'll fail. He'll be mortal, vulnerable. We can kill him permanently. Assuming the timeline doesn't change so much that the graveyard incident never happens. True. But either way, we're reducing his power, limiting his options. Every Horcrux we destroy makes him weaker. They reached the portrait of the fat lady. Hermione gave the password, Caput Draconis, and they climbed through into the common room. It was late, past midnight. The common room was empty except for a few dying embers in the fireplace. They settled into their usual chairs, the soul bond relaxing now that they were together in a safe, familiar space. I'm exhausted, Hermione admitted. Not physically, mentally, emotionally. It's like we're living 2 lives simultaneously, the public life of being students, and the private life of being time-displaced soldiers hunting Horcruxes. I know. Some days I forget which version of myself I'm supposed to be. Am I Harry Potter, the 11-year-old first year? Or am I Harry Potter, the 17-year-old war survivor? It's disorienting. We need to be careful not to lose ourselves completely. We need to maintain some connection to who we used to be, to our humanity. Otherwise we become monsters, Harry finished. I know. The Sorting Hat warned me about that. It said we needed to maintain our capacity for good, not become the evil we're trying to prevent. Do you think we're managing that? Maintaining our humanity? Harry thought about the modified Imperius they'd used on Peter, about the dark magic they were planning to use on the Horcruxes, about how easily they'd slipped into ruthless pragmatism. I don't know, he admitted, but I think as long as we keep questioning ourselves, keep worrying about becoming monsters, we're probably okay. It's when we stop caring that we've crossed the line. Then we keep caring. We keep questioning. We don't let the war turn us into what we're fighting against. Agreed. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, both lost in their own thoughts. Finally, Hermione said, Harry, can I ask you something personal? Always. Do you think about them, our friends from the original timeline? The ones who died? Harry was quiet for a long moment. Then, every day, I think about Cedric, about how young he was when he died, about Sirius falling through the veil, about Remus and Tonks dying in the Battle of Hogwarts, leaving Teddy an orphan, about Fred dying while fighting alongside his family. I think about all of them, And I think about how, in this timeline, if we succeed, they'll never know how close they came to dying. They'll live normal lives, never knowing we saved them. Does that bother you? That they'll never know? No. I'd rather they live in ignorance than die as heroes. Fame and recognition aren't worth dying for. I agree. But Harry, what about us? In this timeline, if we succeed, we'll be the only ones who remember what happened in the original timeline. We'll be the only ones carrying the trauma of a war that never happened. That's going to be incredibly isolating. She was right. If they prevented the war, prevented Voldemort's return, saved everyone who died, they'd be the only ones who remembered the alternative. The only ones who knew what they'd sacrificed, what they'd prevented, what they'd lost. We'll have each other, Harry said. That's more than most people get. Hermione, you're the only person in this world who understands what I've been through, what I'm going through, what I'm trying to do, and I'm the only person who understands you the same way. Maybe that's the price we pay for changing the timeline. Eternal isolation from everyone except each other. That's a high price. But worth it if everyone else gets to live. Hermione was quiet for a long moment. Then, Harry, what if the soul bond isn't an accident? What if it's compensation? The magic's way of ensuring we don't face this isolation alone. By binding us together permanently, it guaranteed we'd always have someone who understands, someone who remembers, someone who knows the truth. It was an interesting theory. Harry had assumed the soul bond was a random side effect of the time displacement. But what if Hermione was right? What if it was intentional, the magic's way of protecting them from the psychological devastation of carrying their memories alone? If that's true, Harry said slowly, then the bond isn't a curse. It's a gift, a necessary one. Maybe that's why it doesn't feel wrong, Hermione said. Even though we're bound together in ways that would normally be considered unhealthy or codependent, it doesn't feel wrong. It feels right. Like this is how it's supposed to be. Do you think we'd choose this? If the bond could be broken, if we could be separate individuals again, would we choose to break it? Hermione thought about it seriously. I don't know. Part of me wants to say yes, that I'd want my independence back, my individual identity. But honestly, I don't think I could survive without you anymore, Harry. Not after everything we've been through, everything we're carrying. You're not just my partner or my friend. You're the only person who makes me feel less alone in this impossible situation. I feel the same way, Harry admitted. You're my anchor, my constant, the only thing that feels real in a world where I'm pretending to be someone I'm not. If the bond broke, I think I'd shatter. Then we keep it. We accept it. We stop fighting it and just let it be what it is. A survival mechanism? A partnership? A bond? Whatever it is, it's ours. And right now, that's enough. Harry nodded. Okay, we keep the bond. We accept what we are to each other. And we focus on the mission. Together? Always together. They sat by the dying fire until dawn, bound together by magic and trauma and choice. Two children who weren't really children, carrying burdens they shouldn't have to carry. Saving a world that would never know how close it came to falling. And somehow, despite everything, they were okay. Because they had each other. And right now, in this moment, that was enough. Year 1. Continued occlumency and observation. By November, Harry and Hermione had established a routine that balanced their dual existence. Students by day, strategists by night. Classes were simultaneously boring and necessary. Boring because they already knew the material. First-year transfiguration was laughably simple when you'd successfully cast Patronuses and fought in a war. Necessary because they needed to rebuild their magical stamina and maintain their cover. I can't cast a proper shield charm yet, Harry complained one evening during their private practice session in an abandoned classroom. My magical reserves are too limited. I know the spell, I know the theory, I know exactly how it should feel, but my body can't produce enough power to sustain it. That's because you're 11, Hermione reminded him, practicing her own spell work across the room. She was working on silent casting, something that wouldn't be formally taught until 6th year, but which she'd mastered in the original timeline. Our bodies need time to develop magical capacity. We can't rush that. The best we can do is practice consistently, build up our stamina gradually, and be patient. I hate being patient. I know. But Harry, think about it strategically. If we displayed our full knowledge and abilities now, we'd immediately draw attention. Dumbledore would investigate. The Ministry might get involved. We'd lose our advantage of being underestimated. You're right, I keep having nightmares where something attacks and I can't defend us properly. Because I'm too weak. Hermione stopped practicing and looked at him with concern. You're having nightmares about protecting me? About failing to protect you? About watching you die again? Harry's voice went quiet. In the original timeline, when Bellatrix was torturing you at Malfoy Manor, I could hear you screaming from the cellar. I was helpless. I couldn't get to you, couldn't save you. That feeling, that helplessness, it still haunts me. But you did save me. You got us out of there. Barely. And not before you'd been tortured. Hermione, the nightmares aren't about the past. They're about the future. What if we encounter something we can't handle because we're too young, too weak? What if our knowledge isn't enough? Hermione crossed the room and took his hands. Through the soul bond, Harry could feel her steady presence, her absolute certainty. Then we run, she said firmly. We retreat, we regroup, we try again when we're stronger. Harry, we don't have to win every battle. We just have to survive long enough to destroy the Horcruxes. That's the only goal that matters. You're right. I know you're right. I can't lose you again. I can't watch you die. You won't, because I'm not dying in this timeline. Neither are you. We're going to survive this, destroy Voldemort, save everyone, and then we're going to have long, boring, peaceful lives where the most exciting thing that happens is arguing about what to have for dinner. Harry managed a small smile. That sounds perfect. It does, doesn't it? Hermione squeezed his hands. Now stop catastrophizing and help me with this transfiguration. I'm trying to turn this desk into a pig, but I keep getting the proportions wrong. They went back to practicing, but Harry felt better. The soul bond did that. Hermione's presence, her certainty, her refusal to let him spiral into despair, it kept him grounded, kept him sane. The other critical skill they were developing was occlumency. We need to master this before Dumbledore decides to look into our minds, Hermione said during one of their library research sessions. She'd pulled every book on legilimency and occlumency that wasn't in the restricted section, spreading them across their usual table in the far corner. Right now, we're vulnerable. Any skilled legilimens could see our memories, realize we're time displaced, and our entire operation would be compromised. How do we learn occlumency without a teacher? Harry asked. In the original timeline, Snape tried to teach me, but his method was basically just invading my mind repeatedly until I learned to block him. And it didn't work very well. Because Snape's method was abusive, not pedagogical. He wasn't teaching, he was punishing. Hermione tapped one of the books. According to this, proper occlumency training involves meditation, mental organization, and gradual building of mental defenses. It's like creating a fortress in your mind. Walls, gates, compartments where you can hide sensitive information. That sounds time-consuming. It is. But Harry, this is non-negotiable. We need this skill. Without it, we're one legilimency probe away from exposure. They began training that night. Every evening, after their dormmates were asleep, they'd meet in the common room and practice. Hermione had found detailed instructions in one of the books, a method developed by an ancient order of mind mages who'd protected themselves from mental invasion during a long-ago war. The technique involved 3 stages. Stage 1, mental clarity. They had to learn to clear their minds completely, to create a blank slate where no thoughts or emotions existed. This was harder than it sounded. Harry's mind constantly wandered to worries about the Horcruxes, to memories of the war, to plans for the future. Every time a thought arose, he had to acknowledge it and let it go, returning to emptiness. It's like trying not to think about a pink elephant, Harry complained after a particularly frustrating session. The moment you try to clear your mind, 1,000 thoughts appear. That's normal, Hermione assured him. The book says it takes weeks to achieve consistent mental clarity. We just have to keep practicing. Stage 2, mental organization. Once they could achieve mental clarity, they had to learn to organize their memories and thoughts into distinct compartments. Drawers in a mental filing cabinet, rooms in a mental house, books in a mental library. The metaphor varied by person, but the principle was the same. Control where information was stored so that a legilimens couldn't just ransack your mind randomly. This stage came more naturally to Hermione, whose mind already worked in organized, systematic ways. Harry struggled more. His thoughts and memories were chaotic, interconnected in ways that didn't follow neat categories. Think of it like Hogwarts, Hermione suggested. Your mind is the castle. Different memories and thoughts live in different rooms. Your memories of the war are locked in the Chamber of Secrets. Your knowledge of Horcruxes is hidden in the Room of Requirement. Your emotional memories are in Gryffindor Tower. You control which doors open, which staircases move. A Legilimens might get into the castle, but they can't access everything if you control the architecture. That metaphor helped. Harry began constructing his mental Hogwarts, assigning memories and knowledge to different locations, learning to seal doors and rearrange passages. Stage 3. Mental Defense. The final stage was active defense, learning to repel a Legilimency attack, to throw up barriers and shields when someone tried to invade your mind. This was the hardest part because they had no one to practice against. They couldn't attack each other's minds without risking damage, and they couldn't exactly ask a professor to help. "We'll have to wait until someone actually tries to use Legilimency on us," Hermione said. "Then we'll learn by doing. But if we've mastered stages 1 and 2, we should at least have basic defenses in place." By Christmas break, they'd both achieved reasonable proficiency in mental clarity and organization. They weren't masters, but they were competent enough that a casual Legilimency probe would encounter organized defenses rather than naked thoughts. "It's not perfect," Hermione assessed, "but it's better than nothing. If Dumbledore decides to look into our minds, he'll find walls, not answers." "Let's hope he doesn't decide to look," Harry said. But they both knew it was only a matter of time before their behavior attracted serious scrutiny. Christmas break. The Dursleys and the stone. The question of Christmas break presented a dilemma. "I can't go back to the Dursleys," Harry said flatly when Hermione raised the subject in mid-December. "I can't pretend to be the abused orphan when I know exactly what they are and what they did to me. I'd lose my mind." "Then stay at Hogwarts. Tell them you want to experience Christmas at the castle, but that means being separated from you for 2 weeks. The soul bond, we'll manage. Harry, we've been apart for entire school days. We can handle 2 weeks if we have to. Besides, I need to go home. My parents deserve to see me. I've been writing to them, but I can't keep avoiding actually visiting." "What are you going to tell them? About us? About the time displacement?" "Nothing. They're muggles. They can't know about this. I'll just be their 11-year-old daughter, excited about Hogwarts, telling them about classes and friends." Hermione's voice was sad. "It's another lie. Another performance. But it's necessary." In the end, Hermione went home to her parents, and Harry stayed at Hogwarts. The separation was harder than they'd anticipated. The soul bond created a constant low-level anxiety, not panic, but a persistent awareness that something was wrong, that they were incomplete. Harry spent the break exploring the castle more thoroughly, mapping secret passages, identifying potential hiding places for future use. He also began investigating the third-floor corridor that Dumbledore had forbidden students from entering. He knew what was there, the Philosopher's Stone, protected by a series of magical obstacles designed by various professors. In the original timeline, he, Ron, and Hermione had gone through those obstacles to prevent Quirrell from stealing the stone. This time, Harry had no intention of interfering. Let Dumbledore handle Quirrell. Harry had bigger priorities, but he was curious about the stone itself, an object that produced the elixir of life and turned any metal into gold. It was legendary. And more importantly, if Voldemort was trying to obtain it, that meant he was already beginning his return to power, already possessing Quirrell's body. Harry cast disillusionment charms and crept past Fluffy, the three-headed dog guarding the trapdoor. One night, using Parseltongue to quiet the beast, he didn't go through the trapdoor, too risky, and he heard voices, Quirrell's stammering speech, and beneath it, another voice, whispering, cold, familiar. Voldemort was there. A fragment of him, at least, possessing Quirrell, desperately seeking the stone to restore his body. Harry retreated carefully, his mind racing. In the original timeline, Voldemort hadn't obtained the stone. Dumbledore had arrived in time. Harry had been protected by Lily's love magic in his blood, and Quirrell had died. Should Harry interfere? Accelerate the timeline? Ensure Quirrell failed? Or should he trust that events would unfold as they had before? He decided on a middle path. Surveillance. He'd watch, be ready to intervene if necessary, but let Dumbledore handle the primary confrontation. When Hermione returned from break, he told her everything. Voldemort's already active, Hermione said, her face pale. That means the timeline is proceeding roughly as before. He's possessing Quirrell, seeking the stone, planning his return. Which means we're on schedule. Everything's unfolding as we remember. For now. But Harry, every action we take changes things. Peter's captured consciousness, the diadem's location, our knowledge, all of it is creating ripples. Eventually, those ripples will become waves. Then we make sure those waves push things in the right direction. Agreed. But we need to be prepared for the unexpected. The more we change, the less we can rely on our memories of how things should unfold. It was a sobering thought. Their greatest advantage was foreknowledge, but the more they changed, the less reliable that knowledge became. End of first year. The stone's resolution in May, the situation with the stone came to a head. Harry didn't participate in the confrontation. He was 11, weak, unprepared. Instead, he and Hermione watched from a distance, using disillusionment charms and strategic positioning to observe without being seen. They watched Quirrell enter the forbidden corridor. They watched Dumbledore rush to intercept. They watched from the shadows as Dumbledore confronted Quirrell, as Voldemort's presence became apparent, as the confrontation ended with Quirrell's death and Voldemort's spirit fleeing. "It's done," Harry said quietly as they retreated to Gryffindor Tower afterward. "Voldemort's failed. The stone is secure, or destroyed," Hermione corrected. "Dumbledore will destroy it to prevent anyone else from trying to steal it, which means Voldemort's first attempt at return has been thwarted. He'll try again. In our timeline, he spent 3 years recovering from this failure before trying the ritual in the graveyard. Then we have 3 years to destroy enough Horcruxes that when he tries that ritual, he fails permanently." At the end of year feast, Dumbledore made his usual announcements. Gryffindor won the House Cup, last-minute points to Harry for reasons he didn't entirely understand. Something about stopping Voldemort, though Harry hadn't actually done anything this time. Students celebrated, and Harry and Hermione played along, acting excited and proud. But privately, they were thinking ahead. First year was complete. The stone crisis was resolved. They'd secured the diadem, captured Peter, and begun their preparation for Horcrux hunting. Second year would be more active. The Chamber of Secrets would open. They'd collect basilisk venom. They'd intercept the diary Horcrux. "We're making progress," Hermione said on the train ride home. "Real, tangible progress." "We are," Harry agreed. "But Hermione, Dumbledore was watching us at the feast. Did you notice? He looked at us several times with this expression, like he was trying to figure something out." "I noticed. He's suspicious. He doesn't know what exactly, but he knows something's off about us. We need to be more careful. If Dumbledore investigates seriously, if he uses legilimency, and if that's not enough, we improvise. Harry, we can't let fear of Dumbledore paralyze us. He's not our enemy. He's just an obstacle. One we'll deal with if and when it becomes necessary." "You're right. But I have a feeling that confrontation is coming sooner rather than later." "Then we prepare for it. Add it to the list. Master Occlumency, destroy Horcruxes, prevent the war, and eventually explain ourselves to Dumbledore." Quite the list. We've handled worse. They had. They'd survived a war, hunted Horcruxes across Britain, faced Voldemort himself. Compared to that, convincing Dumbledore they were trustworthy seemed almost manageable. Almost. Summer after first year. Preparation. Harry spent the summer at the Dursleys under protest. "I have to maintain the blood wards," he explained to Hermione before they separated at King's Cross. Dumbledore was very clear. "I need to return to my aunt's house for at least 2 weeks each summer to keep the protections active. But the Dursleys are terrible to you." "I know, but it's only 2 weeks. I can endure 2 weeks. And honestly, after everything we've been through, their particular brand of awfulness seems almost quaint." Hermione looked troubled but didn't argue. "Write to me every day. And if they do anything at all, that crosses a line, you tell me immediately." "I will." "And Hermione, the separation is going to be harder this time. 2 months apart. The soul bond is going to be screaming." "I know. We'll manage. We have to." The separation was indeed difficult. The soul bond created a constant ache, not painful, but present, like a perpetual awareness that something was missing. Harry wrote to Hermione daily, long letters detailing his observations of Privet Drive, his continued practice of occlumency and magical exercises, his strategic planning for second year. Hermione wrote back equally detailed letters, sharing her research findings, her growing knowledge of Horcrux destruction methods, her theories about the Chamber of Secrets, and how they could use it to their advantage. But beyond the strategic discussions, their letters revealed something else. How deeply they'd come to rely on each other, not just as partners in their mission, but as emotional anchors. "I miss you," Harry wrote in late July. "I know that's ridiculous. We're apart for perfectly legitimate reasons, and we'll see each other in a few weeks. But the bond keeps tugging at me, reminding me you're not here. It's like part of me is missing." "I feel it too," Hermione wrote back. "My parents have noticed I'm distracted. They think I'm just excited about returning to Hogwarts, but really, I'm just waiting to see you again. Waiting to feel whole again. Is that codependent? Probably. Do I care? Not really. You're my person, Harry." That's just how it is. On August 15th, they met in Diagon Alley for school shopping. The moment they saw each other, the soul bond settled, satisfied. They didn't hug. Too public, too much risk of appearing unusual, but they stood close, and the relief was palpable. "2 more weeks until Hogwarts," Hermione said as they browsed Flourish and Blots together. "Are you ready?" "For the chamber. As ready as I can be. We know what's coming. Ginny gets possessed by the diary, the chamber opens, the basilisk attacks Muggleborns. We stop it, we collect venom, we destroy the diary and potentially the diadem. And we do it all without anyone realizing we knew it was coming. That's the hard part. We can't prevent everything. If we do, Dumbledore will know we had foreknowledge. We need to let some events unfold naturally, intervene only at critical moments. Ginny's going to get hurt, we know that. Can we live with that? Letting her suffer when we could prevent it." Harry was quiet for a moment. "Then, we save her before permanent damage occurs. That's the best we can do. We can't prevent her possession without revealing we know about the diary, but we can monitor the situation, be ready to intervene when she's in real danger." "That's cold. I know. But Hermione, we can't save everyone from every hardship. If we try to prevent all suffering, we'll expose ourselves and lose the ability to prevent the war. We have to make hard choices. I hate this. I hate that we have to calculate acceptable losses. Me too, but that's the price of changing the timeline. We're not heroes who save everyone. We're strategists who minimize casualties." It was a grim philosophy, but a necessary one. They couldn't afford to be sentimental. Too many lives depended on them staying hidden, staying effective, completing their mission. Second year begins. The chamber opens September 1st arrived, and with it the return to Hogwarts. Harry and Hermione had coordinated their plan for second year in exhaustive detail. They knew the sequence of events. Lucius Malfoy would slip the diary to Ginny Weasley, either at the bookshop or shortly after. Ginny would begin writing in it. Tom Riddle's memory would possess her. The chamber would open. Messages would appear on walls. Students would be petrified. Eventually, Ginny would be taken into the chamber itself. Their goal, allow events to unfold until they could access the chamber and the basilisk, then intervene decisively. "We can't stop the attacks entirely," Hermione said during their first planning session in the common room. "If we do, the chamber never opens, and we lose our opportunity to collect basilisk venom. So we let people get petrified? They'll recover. Mandrake restorative draught reverses the petrification. No permanent harm done, except the trauma of being frozen for months, which is terrible, but survivable. Harry, we can't prevent all suffering. We just have to ensure no one dies." The first few weeks of term were normal. Classes resumed, Quidditch practices began, and Harry and Hermione maintained their cover as ordinary second years, albeit unusually studious ones. Then, in mid-October, it began. Harry was walking back from the library when he saw it, writing on the wall, red and glistening. "The Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Enemies of the air, beware." Mrs. Norris, Filch's cat, hung from a torch bracket, stiff as a board. Petrified. Students gathered, whispering in fear. Filch arrived, saw his cat, and began screaming accusations. Dumbledore appeared moments later, his expression grave. "Everyone back to your dormitories," he commanded. "Prefects, escort your houses. Move quickly and quietly." Harry caught Hermione's eye across the crowd. "It's starting," her expression said. "I know," Harry thought back, wondering if the soul bond could transmit that simple understanding. Back in Gryffindor Tower, everyone was talking about the chamber. Theories flew. What was it? Who opened it? What did enemies of the air mean? Harry and Hermione stayed quiet, listening, gathering intelligence on what their classmates knew and didn't know. "We need to find the diary," Hermione whispered during one of their private conversations. Figure out who has it. Monitor the situation. It's Ginny. We know it's Ginny. Lucius slipped it to her, probably in flourish and blots during school shopping. Then we watch her, carefully. We wait until she's taken into the chamber, then we follow. What about the other students who get petrified? Colin Creevey, Justin Finch Fletchley. Hermione? Harry stopped. Wait. You were petrified in the original timeline. I was. I'd figured out it was a basilisk, looked at it through a mirror, got frozen. So this time you know not to look at it. And this time I won't be investigating the chamber the same way. I already know what it is. I don't need to research. Which means you won't get petrified, which is a change from the original timeline. A small one. Other students will still be attacked. The sequence of events will be similar enough that no one should notice. Over the next 2 months, students were indeed attacked. Colin Creevey, petrified after seeing the basilisk through his camera. Nearly headless Nick, petrified. Well, re-killed and frozen in place. Justin Finch Fletchley, petrified after seeing the basilisk's reflection in water. Each time Harry and Hermione were careful to be nowhere near the scene. They had alibis, witnesses who could confirm they were in the library or at Quidditch practice or in class when the attacks occurred. This is harder than I thought, Harry admitted after Justin's petrification. Knowing it's going to happen, watching for it, but not being able to prevent it without revealing what we know. I know. But Harry, everyone who was petrified will recover. In a few months when the mandrakes mature, they'll be fine. Everyone except... Harry stopped. In the original timeline, a student had died. Moaning Myrtle, killed by the basilisk 50 years earlier. But no one had died in the current sequence of attacks. Yet, we need to make sure Ginny doesn't die in the chamber, Harry said. That's our hard line. Everyone else, we can accept their petrification as an unfortunate but necessary cost. But Ginny, actually dying? That's too far. Agreed. So we monitor carefully. The moment she's taken into the chamber, we follow immediately. We don't wait. The Chamber of Secrets, Confrontation and Venom. In February, Ginny Weasley disappeared. Harry and Hermione had been watching her for weeks, noting her increasingly erratic behavior. The memory gaps, the ink-stained fingers, the haunted expression. They knew Tom Riddle's memory was consuming her, using her to open the chamber, preparing for his manifestation. When Ginny was taken, the school fell into chaos. Dumbledore called an emergency assembly. McGonagall's voice was tight with fear as she announced that a student had been taken into the chamber itself. We're going after her, Harry said to Hermione as students filed back to their common rooms. Tonight, we know where the entrance is. Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. 2nd floor. We need Parseltongue to open it. I can do that. The question is, how do we get there without being caught? Invisibility cloak and disillusionment charms. We wait until everyone's asleep, then we move. That night, they crept through the castle under Harry's invisibility cloak, layered with disillusionment charms for extra security. They reached the 2nd floor bathroom without incident. Harry approached the sink marked with a small snake. In Parseltongue, he hissed, "Open." The sink slid aside, revealing a large pipe leading down into darkness. That's a long drop, Hermione observed. It's safe. The pipe curves into a slide. We'll be fine. You first. I'll follow. Harry jumped into the pipe, sliding down through the darkness, twisting and turning until he shot out onto damp stone floor. Moments later, Hermione landed beside him. They were in a tunnel, ancient, massive, obviously not human-made. The walls were carved with serpents, and the air smelled of damp and rot. The chamber is ahead, Harry said. Through the tunnel, past the snake door. That's where Ginny and Riddle will be. They walked quickly, wands lit, alert for any sign of the basilisk. But the tunnel was empty. The serpent was already in the chamber itself, waiting. They reached the final door, a massive circular entrance, covered in snake carvings. Harry spoke Parseltongue again, and the door opened with a grinding sound. The Chamber of Secrets was enormous. Stone pillars carved with serpents stretched toward a distant ceiling, and at the far end, lying on the floor, was Ginny Weasley, unconscious, barely breathing, her life force draining into the diary that lay beside her. Standing over her was a figure, Tom Riddle, or rather, a memory of Tom Riddle, made substantial by stealing Ginny's life force. He was young, 16, handsome, with dark hair and eyes that glittered with malevolent intelligence. Well, well, Riddle said, his voice smooth and cold. 2 second years come to rescue the Weasley girl. How touching. And one of you is Harry Potter. I can see the resemblance to your father. The same arrogant expression. Harry didn't respond. He was calculating Riddle wasn't fully corporeal yet. He was still just a memory, powerful but not invincible. And the diary was right there, within reach. Hermione, the diary, Harry muttered. Get it away from Ginny. I'll distract Riddle. What about the basilisk? I'll handle it. Handle it? You're 12 years old. The basilisk is a 1,000-year-old serpent, capable of killing with a glance. You'll die the moment it emerges. Maybe, Harry said, but I won't go down without a fight. Besides, I'm a Parselmouth. The basilisk might listen to me. Riddle's expression shifted, surprise, then calculation. You're a Parselmouth? How interesting. But it won't help you. The basilisk obeys only me. Harry heard it then. The sound of something massive moving through the pipes. The basilisk was coming. Hermione, go, Harry shouted. Hermione ran toward Ginny and the diary. Riddle tried to intercept her, but he was insubstantial. His hand passed through her arm. Frustrated, he shouted, Kill them! Kill them both! The basilisk emerged from the mouth of Salazar Slytherin's statue. 60 feet of serpent, scales gleaming green-black, eyes deadly. Harry immediately closed his eyes and spoke Parseltongue. Stop! Don't kill! Please, stop! The basilisk hesitated, confused. It had been commanded to kill, but another Parselmouth was countermanding the order. Who speaks? The basilisk hissed. Who dares command me? I am Harry Potter. I don't want to harm you. I just need you to stay back. Let us help the girl. The memory commands me to kill. I must obey. You don't have to obey a memory. You're a living creature. You have choice. The basilisk was silent for a long moment. Then, the memory has kept me alone for 50 years. Trapped. Hungry. If you free me from his command, if you promise I can leave this chamber, I will not kill you. I promise. Help us stop the memory, and I'll set you free. The basilisk turned toward Riddle's memory, and Riddle's expression turned to horror. No, I command you. Kill them. I serve no memory. The basilisk hissed. I serve only myself. Hermione had reached Ginny. She grabbed the diary and held it up. Harry, I have it. How do we destroy it? Basilisk venom. We need a fang. The basilisk, understanding, opened its mouth, revealing rows of fangs as long as Harry's forearm, dripping with venom. You may take one, the basilisk said, but carefully. My venom kills instantly. Harry approached cautiously, keeping his eyes closed. He used his wand to magically extract a fang, levitating it carefully through the air until it was hovering beside Hermione. Stab the diary, Harry said, right through the center. Hermione took the fang, carefully using her robes as protection, and drove it into the diary's cover. Tom Riddle screamed. The sound was inhuman, filled with rage and pain. His form began to dissolve, wisps of memory evaporating into nothing. You fools, Riddle's voice echoed as he faded. You think destroying this is the end? I am eternal. I will return. Then he was gone. The diary lay on the floor, smoking and blackened, destroyed. Ginny gasped and opened her eyes, color returning to her face as her life force was no longer being drained. Where? What happened? Ginny looked around in confusion, taking in the chamber, Harry and Hermione, the massive basilisk watching them with huge yellow eyes. You're safe, Hermione said quickly. Ginny, you were possessed by a dark object, but it's destroyed now. You're free. I don't remember. I can't remember anything. That's okay. We'll explain everything later. Right now, we need to get you out of here. Harry turned to the basilisk. Thank you for your help. As promised, I'll set you free. There's a tunnel that leads to the lake. Follow it, and you'll be able to leave the castle. You honor your word, the basilisk said. I accept your gift of freedom. Go, young Parselmouth. Leave this place. They left the chamber quickly, helping Ginny walk through the tunnels. Behind them, Harry could hear the basilisk moving through the pipes, seeking its path to freedom. Did you collect venom? Harry asked Hermione quietly as they climbed back through the pipe to the bathroom. Yes, 3 vials, Enough to destroy the diadem and any other Horcruxes we can access. Good. Then this mission was a success. Diary destroyed, venom collected, Ginny saved, basilisk freed, and no one died, Hermione added. Harry, we actually did it. We changed the outcome without exposing ourselves. They emerged in Moaning Myrtle's bathroom to find Dumbledore, McGonagall, and several other professors waiting. Miss Weasley, McGonagall rushed forward. Thank Merlin you're safe. What happened? How did you escape? Ginny looked at Harry and Hermione, confused. They'd have to craft a careful story, something believable, something that didn't reveal too much. We found her in the chamber, Harry said. A memory of Tom Riddle had possessed her through a dark object, a diary. We destroyed the diary and the possession ended. You destroyed a Horcrux? Dumbledore's voice was sharp with surprise. And something else? Suspicion? How did you know what it was? We didn't, Hermione said quickly. We just knew it was dark. Harry stabbed it with a basilisk fang, and it broke. The memory disappeared. A basilisk fang? Where did you obtain such a thing? The basilisk in the chamber. It helped us. Dumbledore's expression was unreadable. The basilisk helped you. Yes. Harry's a Parselmouth. He convinced it not to kill us. There was a long silence. Then Dumbledore said quietly, I think we need to have a very long conversation, Mr. Potter, Miss Granger. But for now, 20 points to Gryffindor for exceptional bravery, and please escort Miss Weasley to the hospital wing. As they walked away, Harry felt Dumbledore's eyes on his back. The old wizard knew something was wrong. New 2-second years shouldn't have been capable of what they'd just accomplished. We've drawn his attention, Hermione murmured. Seriously this time. I know, but what could we do? Let Ginny die? Let the diary remain active? No. We did the right thing. But Harry, Dumbledore's going to investigate now. He's going to want answers. Then we'd better prepare our story carefully, because the confrontation is coming. Second year aftermath. Dumbledore's investigation, the week following the chamber incident, was tense. Ginny Weasley was recovering in the hospital wing, her memories of the possession fragmented and traumatic. The school was celebrating the end of the attacks. Students who'd been petrified were revived with Mandrake restorative draught, and the relief was palpable. But for Harry and Hermione, celebration was impossible. They were waiting for the other shoe to drop. It fell 3 days after the chamber incident. Mr. Potter, Miss Granger, Professor McGonagall said, appearing in the common room one evening. The headmaster wishes to see you both in his office. Immediately. They exchanged glances. This is it, Hermione's expression said. Stay calm, Harry thought back, hoping the soul bond could transmit the sentiment. We prepared for this. They followed McGonagall through the castle to Dumbledore's office. The password was given, acid pops. The gargoyle stepped aside and they climbed the spiral staircase to the headmaster's domain. Dumbledore sat behind his desk, looking older than Harry remembered from this timeline. His blue eyes, usually twinkling with benevolent amusement, were sharp, analytical, penetrating. Please, sit, Dumbledore said, gesturing to 2 chairs that appeared before his desk. Lemon drop? No, thank you, they both said. Very well. Dumbledore steepled his fingers, regarding them with an expression Harry couldn't quite read. I've spent the past 3 days reviewing your academic records, speaking with your professors and examining the events of this year with great care, and I find myself deeply puzzled. Why is that, sir? Hermione asked, her voice perfectly polite. Because the evidence before me suggests that 2 12-year-old students accomplished feats that should have been impossible. You entered the Chamber of Secrets, a location that has been sealed for 50 years. You identified a basilisk and survived an encounter with it. You destroyed a powerful dark artifact, what I now understand to be a Horcrux, without prior knowledge of what such objects are or how to destroy them. And you did all of this with minimal magical education and no adult supervision. We were lucky, Harry said. Luck, Dumbledore repeated. Yes, that's what your official report claims. But Harry, I have been headmaster of this school for many years. I have seen lucky students. I have seen talented students. I have seen brave students. But I have never seen students who display the kind of tactical precision, magical knowledge, and strategic thinking that you two demonstrated in the chamber. That is not luck. That is competence born of experience you should not possess. The silence stretched. Harry and Hermione had rehearsed this conversation a dozen times. that sitting before Dumbledore, feeling the weight of his attention, the sheer intelligence behind those blue eyes, was more intimidating than they'd anticipated. "We read a lot," Hermione finally said. "Books on magical defense, on dark artifacts, on—" "Miss Granger," Dumbledore interrupted gently. "I appreciate your attempt at deflection, but I'm afraid it won't suffice. The library's records show that you've accessed the restricted section multiple times this year, using forged permission slips that were quite skillfully created. You've researched Horcruxes, advanced defensive magic, and occlumency, subjects far beyond your year level. Why?" "Intellectual curiosity," Hermione said, but her voice was less certain now. "And Mr. Potter," Dumbledore turned his full attention to Harry. "You are a parcel mouth. You speak to serpents with fluency that suggests long practice, yet you've been in the magical world for less than 2 years. You convinced a 1,000-year-old basilisk to disobey the commands of Tom Riddle, a feat that requires not just language ability, but persuasive skill and serpent psychology knowledge. Where did you acquire such expertise?" Harry met Dumbledore's eyes and made a decision. They couldn't maintain the lie forever. Dumbledore was too intelligent, too experienced. He'd continue investigating until he uncovered the truth. Better to control the revelation than have it discovered. "Professor," Harry said quietly, "if we tell you the truth, will you promise to hear us out completely before making any judgments or taking any action?" Dumbledore's expression shifted, surprise, then intense interest. "That is an unusual request, Harry. But yes, I promise to listen to whatever you have to say before deciding how to proceed." Harry looked at Hermione. Through the soul bond, he felt her agreement, her readiness. "We're time travelers," Harry said. "Hermione and we're from 7 years in the future. We came back to prevent a war, to save lives, to stop Voldemort before he can return to power." The silence that followed was absolute. Dumbledore stared at them for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He laughed, not mockingly, but with genuine surprise, and something that might have been respect. "Time travelers," he repeated. "That would explain a great deal. The advanced knowledge, the strategic thinking, the way you move through the school as if you know every secret passage and hidden room. But Albus, such magic is extraordinarily rare and dangerous. How did you accomplish it?" "We didn't mean to," Hermione said. "In our original timeline, the future we came from, there was a war. Voldemort returned to power in our 4th year. He built an army, attacked Hogwarts, killed dozens of students and professors. We fought him for years, and in the final battle, we were using an experimental time turner, trying to—" She paused. "We were trying to save someone, a friend who just died. But the magic went wrong. Instead of going back hours, we went back years. We woke up on the Hogwarts Express, September 1st, 1st year, with all our memories intact, but trapped in our 11-year-old bodies. And you've been living this deception ever since," Dumbledore said slowly, pretending to be children while carrying adult consciousnesses. "That must be extraordinarily difficult." "It is," Harry admitted. "Every day we have to remember to act our age, to not reveal what we know, to pretend we're learning magic for the first time when we actually mastered these spells years ago. It's exhausting." "I can imagine. Tell me, in your original timeline, what happened to Voldemort? How was he defeated?" "He wasn't," Harry said bluntly. "Not yet. In the timeline we came from, we were still fighting when we were displaced. People were dying. The war was destroying everything. We came back to prevent it from ever starting." Dumbledore was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. Then, "Show me your occlumency shields. If you're truly from the future, you'll have mental defenses I can examine." Harry and Hermione both nodded. They felt the gentle pressure of legilimency, Dumbledore entering the outer layers of their minds. But their mental defenses held. Dumbledore encountered the walls they'd constructed, the organized architecture of their memories, the clear signs of advanced occlumency training. He withdrew, his expression grave. "You're telling the truth. Your minds have the structure of adult consciousnesses, not children. And your defenses, you've been training for months at minimum, possibly years." "We started training in 1st year," Hermione confirmed. "We knew we'd eventually face scrutiny. We needed to be able to protect our secrets." "Very wise. Though I suspect the Sorting Hat discovered your true nature on your very first day. Tell me, what did it say to you?" "It knew," Harry admitted. "It sensed we were time displaced, but it agreed to keep our secret. It said we needed each other to maintain our humanity through what was coming. The hat is rarely wrong about such things. Dumbledore stood and walked to his window, looking out over the Hogwarts grounds. You've put me in a difficult position. By your own admission, you've been using dark magic, Horcrux destruction, memory modification, possibly unforgivable curses. You've been manipulating events, interfering with the timeline, making decisions that should be left to adults, and yet, you've done so with noble intentions, to save lives, to prevent suffering. How am I to judge such actions? We're not asking you to judge us, Harry said. We're asking you to work with us. Professor, in our timeline, you fought Voldemort using secrecy and manipulation. You kept critical information from us, orchestrated events without our knowledge, treated us as pawns in a larger strategy. It didn't work well. People died who shouldn't have. Trust was broken. We're offering you a different approach: transparency and partnership. We tell you what we know, you share what you know, and we work together to prevent the war. Dumbledore turned back to face them. And if I refuse? If I decide that two-time displaced children are too dangerous to be left unsupervised, then we continue without you, Hermione said firmly. Professor, with all due respect, we don't need your permission to hunt Horcruxes or prevent Voldemort's return. We've already destroyed 2 Horcruxes, the diary, and yes, we found and destroyed Ravenclaw's diadem last year. We have basilisk venom to destroy more. We've set in motion plans that will expose Peter Pettigrew next year and free Sirius Black. We're ahead of schedule, and we're not stopping. You can help us, or you can stay out of our way. But you can't stop us. It was a bold declaration, bordering on insubordination. But Dumbledore didn't look angry. Instead, he looked thoughtful, considering. You've destroyed 2 Horcruxes already, he said quietly. I've spent 6 years in my timeline searching for them, and you've destroyed 2 in 18 months. That is, impressive is insufficient. That is extraordinary. Tell me, how many Horcruxes exist in total? 7, Harry said, including the one in my scar. Dumbledore's expression shifted to horror. You carry a Horcrux? Harry, that means to make Voldemort mortal. I have to die. I know. We're saving that problem for last. The other Horcruxes first. The diary. Destroyed. The diadem. Destroyed. The ring, we know where it is, but haven't retrieved it yet. The locket, in a cave, heavily protected. The cup, in Bellatrix Lestrange's Gringotts vault. Nagini, won't become a Horcrux until Voldemort returns. And me. And you have a plan for dealing with your own Horcrux without dying? We're working on it. Dumbledore returned to his desk and sat down heavily. This is perhaps the most extraordinary conversation I've had in my entire life. And I've spoken with Grindelwald, Nicholas Flamel, and several dozen ghosts. Tell me, what do you want from me? What partnership are you proposing? Harry and Hermione exchanged glances. They'd prepared for this, too. We want information sharing, Hermione said. We tell you which Horcruxes we've destroyed and when we plan to destroy others. You tell us what you know about Voldemort's movements, Death Eater activity, ministry politics. We coordinate instead of working at cross purposes. We want resources, Harry added. Access to the restricted section without having to forge notes. Permission to leave Hogwarts when necessary for Horcrux hunting. Protection from ministry interference if our activities are discovered. And most importantly, Hermione finished, we want you to trust us, to treat us as partners, not as children to be managed or protected. We've proven we're competent. We're asking you to acknowledge that and work with us accordingly. Dumbledore was silent for a long time. Then, you ask for a great deal. Trust, resources, autonomy. In exchange for what? In exchange for preventing the war, Harry said. For destroying Voldemort's Horcruxes before he can return to full power. For saving Cedric Diggory, Sirius Black, Remus Lupin, Nymphadora Tonks, Fred Weasley, and dozens of others who die in our timeline. For protecting Hogwarts and the wizarding world from years of death and suffering. That's what we're offering, Professor. A future where the war never happens. And if you fail, if despite your efforts Voldemort returns anyway, then we fight, Harry said simply. Just like we did in our timeline. But this time we'll be better prepared. We'll have destroyed more Horcruxes, exposed more Death Eaters, built stronger alliances. Even if we don't prevent the war entirely, we'll reduce its cost. Dumbledore stood and walked to his pensieve. He pulled out a memory, a silvery strand, and examined it thoughtfully. Then he returned it to the basin. "Very well," he said finally. "I accept your proposal. We will work together, as partners, with transparency and shared information. But I have conditions of my own." "What conditions?" Hermione asked. "First, you will not use unforgivable curses except in genuine life or death situations. I understand you used a modified Imperius on Peter Pettigrew. I disapprove, but I understand the necessity. However, such magic corrupts the soul. Use it sparingly or not at all." "Agreed," they both said. "Second, you will not attempt to retrieve or destroy Horcruxes without informing me first. I don't require permission. You've made it clear you'll act with or without my blessing. But I do require notification. If you're walking into danger, I should know so I can provide backup if needed." "That's reasonable," Harry said. "Third, you will continue your education properly. I don't care if you already know the material. You will attend classes, complete assignments, maintain the appearance of normal students. Your cover is valuable. Don't compromise it through arrogance or laziness." "We've been doing that already," Hermione pointed out. "Yes, but I want your explicit commitment to continue. And finally, you will meet with me monthly to discuss progress, share information, and coordinate strategy. I'm not demanding control, but I am requiring communication. Do you accept these conditions?" Harry and Hermione looked at each other. Through the soul bond, they communicated silently. This was better than they'd hoped. Dumbledore was offering genuine partnership, not just patronizing tolerance. "We accept," Harry said. "Then we have an accord." Dumbledore extended his hand. Harry shook it. Then Hermione did the same. "Now then, tell me everything. Start from the beginning. I want to know about your original timeline, the war, how Voldemort returned, what mistakes I made that you're trying to prevent. Leave nothing out." They talked for 3 hours. They told Dumbledore about the Triwizard Tournament, about Cedric's death, and Voldemort's resurrection in the graveyard, about the Ministry's denial and Umbridge's reign of terror at Hogwarts, about the Horcrux hunt, the Battle of Hogwarts, the deaths of so many people they loved. Dumbledore listened in silence, his expression growing more grave with each revelation. When they finished, he said quietly, "I made so many mistakes. Keeping you ignorant, Harry, manipulating events without explanation, trusting in my own judgment above all others. No wonder you came back determined to do things differently." "You did the best you could with the information you had," Hermione said, surprisingly charitable. "But yes, your approach had flaws. We're trying to correct them, and you've succeeded admirably thus far. 2 Horcruxes destroyed, a 3rd located, Peter Pettigrew captured and prepared for exposure. You're years ahead of where I was in my timeline." Dumbledore pulled out a piece of parchment and began writing. "Here is unrestricted access to the restricted section. Show this to Madame Pince, and she'll allow you to research whatever you need. I'll also speak to the other professors. They'll be told you're working on an advanced independent study project, and should be given appropriate latitude." "Thank you," Harry said, accepting the note. "Don't thank me yet. We have a long road ahead. But Harry, Hermione, I'm genuinely impressed by what you've accomplished. And I'm grateful you've chosen to include me in your efforts, rather than working against me." "We're stronger together," Hermione said. "That's something we learned the hard way in our timeline." "Indeed. Now then, you mentioned Peter Pettigrew. When exactly do you plan to expose him?" "Next year," Harry said. "3rd year. We've implanted a magical marker in his consciousness. When we activate it, he'll confess to his crimes publicly. Sirius will be freed." "Elegant. And the ring Horcrux? The one in the Gaunt Shack? We're researching the curse that protects it. Once we understand how to counter it safely, we'll retrieve and destroy it. Probably this summer or early 3rd year. I can help with that research. The curse is similar to one I encountered in my youth, a life-draining enchantment designed to kill anyone who touches the ring. It's exceptionally nasty, but there are counter-curses." And so began their true partnership. Dumbledore became their advisor, their resource, their occasional voice of caution when their plans became too reckless. They met monthly, sharing information, coordinating strategy. It wasn't perfect. Dumbledore still had his own agenda, his own secrets. And Harry and Hermione didn't tell him everything. They kept some details private, some plans close to the chest. But it was better than working alone, better than working against each other. It was what they'd needed from the beginning. Trust, transparency, partnership. 3rd year, Peter's exposure and Sirius's freedom, third year, began with Harry and Hermione more confident than ever. They had Dumbledore's support. They'd destroyed 2 Horcruxes. They had a plan for the ring, and eventually the locket. And most importantly, they were about to free Sirius Black. The plan was simple: activate the magical marker they'd implanted in Peter's consciousness during first year, force him to transform and confess publicly, and watch the Ministry exonerate Sirius. They executed it in October, during a Hogsmeade weekend. Harry and Hermione were in the 3 broomsticks with Ron and several other third years when Harry accidentally performed the activation spell, a silent, wandless piece of magic that no one noticed. Across the pub, Ron's rat scabbers began to twitch, then convulse. Then, before Ron's horrified eyes, began to transform. "What's happening to Scabbers?" Ron shouted. The rat grew, bones cracking and reforming, until a small, balding man sat where the rat had been, Peter Pettigrew, looking terrified and confused. I didn't mean to. I couldn't stop." Peter was speaking against his will, the magical compulsion forcing words from his throat. "I'm Peter Pettigrew. I'm an unregistered animagus. I betrayed James and Lily Potter to Lord Voldemort. I faked my death and framed Sirius Black for murder. I've been hiding as a rat for 12 years. I'm guilty of everything." The pub erupted in chaos, students screaming, adults shouting, someone running to fetch Aurors. Within minutes, Ministry officials arrived. Peter was arrested, still confessing compulsively, unable to stop the words pouring from his mouth. Ron was in shock. Scabbers was... He killed Harry's parents. "I'm so sorry, Ron," Hermione said, putting a hand on his shoulder. "You couldn't have known, but he was my rat for 3 years. How did I not notice he was human?" "He was very good at hiding," Harry said. "Ron, this isn't your fault." The investigation moved quickly. Peter confessed everything under Veritaserum: the betrayal, the murders, the frame job. Within a week, Sirius Black was exonerated and released from Azkaban. Harry met his godfather for the first time in this timeline at Grimmauld Place. Sirius was broken. 12 years in Azkaban had destroyed him psychologically. He was paranoid, traumatized, barely functional. But he was free and alive. "Harry," Sirius said, his voice rough from disuse, "you look so much like James. I can't believe you're here. That I'm free. That I get to." His voice broke. Harry hugged him carefully. "I know it's hard right now, but Sirius, you're going to heal. You're going to get better, and you're going to have a life again." How did they catch Peter?" "He transformed accidentally in a pub," Harry said, lying smoothly. "Some kind of magical accident. Right in front of witnesses. He couldn't hide anymore. Convenient timing. Very convenient." Sirius looked at him with eyes that had seen too much suffering, but still held a glimmer of James Potter's mischief. "You had something to do with this, didn't you? You and that girl, Hermione, is it? The one you're always with? We might have helped things along." "Good. James would be proud." "So am I." Sirius managed a small smile. "Thank you, Harry, for giving me back my life. Your family. Of course I did." With Sirius freed and Peter exposed, one major objective was complete. But the Horcrux hunt continued. During Christmas break of third year, Harry and Hermione, with Dumbledore's assistance, traveled to the Gaunt Shack to retrieve the ring. Dumbledore had taught them the counter curse, had prepared protective enchantments, had even come with them as backup despite their protests that they could handle it. 2 13-year-olds retrieving a cursed Horcrux is not handling it, Dumbledore said firmly. "I'm accompanying you. Non-negotiable." The Gaunt Shack was exactly as Harry remembered from his glimpses, in the Pensieve. Decrepit, abandoned, saturated with dark magic. The ring sat on a piece of rotting furniture, gleaming with malevolent allure. "Don't touch it directly," Dumbledore warned. "The curse is designed to activate on skin contact. We need to levitate it into a containment vessel first." They did so carefully, using multiple layers of protective magic. The ring went into a lead-lined box, sealed with enchantments that would prevent the curse from spreading. Back at Hogwarts, they destroyed it using basilisk venom. The resurrection stone within the ring shattered, and Harry felt a pang of loss. That stone could have brought back his parents, even temporarily. But Horcruxes were too dangerous to preserve for sentimental reasons. 3 down, Hermione said as they watched the ring crumble. 4 to go. The locket is next, Harry said. but that requires serious preparation. The cave is heavily defended. We'll wait until summer after 4th year, Dumbledore suggested. You'll be stronger then, more capable. There's no need to rush. But they did rush, in their own way. 4th year came and went. No Triwizard Tournament in this timeline, since Barty Crouch Jr. had never been positioned to manipulate the Goblet of Fire. No Voldemort resurrection in the graveyard because Peter had been exposed and couldn't assist. The timeline was changing, deviating from the original sequence. Voldemort was still out there, still clinging to existence through his remaining Horcruxes. But he was weakened, unable to return to power as quickly as before. By the summer after 4th year, Harry and Hermione were 15 years old, young adults in teenage bodies, with 4 years of magical education rebuilding their abilities. We're ready for the locket, Harry said. I can feel it. Our magic is strong enough now. Agreed, Hermione said. Let's plan the cave expedition. The Locket Cave. 4th Horcrux destroyed the cave expedition was planned with military precision. Dumbledore insisted on coming. You are still students, regardless of your adult minds. They recruited Sirius as additional backup. I owe you a life debt, Harry. Let me help. And they spent weeks researching the cave's defenses, preparing countermeasures, practicing the spells they'd need. The cave itself was on a remote coastline, hidden within cliffs accessible only by boat across an underground lake. The entrance was protected by blood magic. It required a blood sacrifice to open. I'll do it, Harry said, producing a small knife. My blood opened it in the original timeline. He cut his palm, let blood drip onto the entrance stone. The cave opened. Inside was exactly as he remembered. The underground lake, the island in the center, the basin of potion that had to be consumed to access the locket. The potion causes terrible visions and incapacitation, Dumbledore said, examining the basin. Whoever drinks it will be helpless, and the lake is filled with inferi, reanimated corpses that attack anyone who touches the water. We need someone to drink the potion while the others defend against inferi, Hermione said. I'll drink it. No, Harry said immediately. Hermione, you're not. I'm the most logical choice. You're stronger magically, Harry. You can fight the inferi better than I can, and Dumbledore and Sirius are more experienced. I'm the least essential to the combat aspect, which makes me the best choice to be incapacitated. I hate that logic, but it is logical. Harry wanted to argue, but she was right. Hermione drinking the potion while the rest of them fought made tactical sense. I'll be the one forcing you to keep drinking, Harry said. That's non-negotiable. If you have to suffer through this, I'm staying by your side. Agreed. They crossed the lake in the boat. Harry, Hermione, Dumbledore, and Sirius. The inferi stirred beneath the water, sensing living presence but not yet attacking. On the island, Hermione began drinking the potion. It was horrible to watch. She screamed, cried, begged Harry to stop, relived her worst memories aloud. Harry forced her to keep drinking, tears streaming down his face, hating every moment but knowing it was necessary. Please stop. They're torturing me again. Bellatrix is please, Harry, please. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Just a little more. Almost done. When the basin was empty, Hermione collapsed. Harry grabbed the locket from the bottom of the basin just as the inferi attacked. They erupted from the water, dozens of them, corpses animated by dark magic, grasping with dead hands. Dumbledore cast a ring of fire around the island, holding them back temporarily. Sirius fought those that got through, stunning and repelling with practiced efficiency. Harry grabbed Hermione's unconscious body and ran for the boat. They made it across the lake, through the cave, back to the entrance. Safe. Hermione woke up hours later in the hospital wing at Hogwarts, Madame Pomfrey fussing over her with healing potions. Did we get it? Hermione asked weakly. Harry held up the locket. We got it. Then destroy it. Now. I don't want that thing to exist another moment. They destroyed it that night. Basilisk venom through the center. The locket screamed with Voldemort's voice, then crumbled to nothing. 4 down, Harry said. 3 to go. But the remaining 3 were the hardest. The cup in Gringotts, nearly impossible to access. Nagini, not yet a Horcrux and wouldn't be until Voldemort's return. And Harry himself. 5th and 6th year, accelerating the end game. 5th and 6th year passed in a blur of preparation and strategic positioning. The cup Horcrux required a Gringotts heist, which they couldn't execute as students. So they waited, prepared, built alliances. Hermione cultivated a friendship with a young Gringotts cursebreaker named Bill Weasley, Ron's older brother. She shared theoretical research about Egyptian tombs that Bill found fascinating, slowly building trust. Harry, meanwhile, worked with Sirius and Dumbledore to identify Death Eaters before they could be recruited. They fed information to the Ministry, exposed sympathizers, prevented Voldemort's network from rebuilding. By 6th year, Voldemort was isolated, weakened, desperate. Without his Horcruxes, except the Cup, Nagini, and Harry, he was more vulnerable than he'd been in decades. And then, in the summer before 7th year, they made their move on Gringotts. Bill Weasley, convinced they were helping recover a stolen artifact, got them access to Bellatrix's vault. They used Polyjuice Potion, Hermione as Bellatrix, Harry as a random Death Eater, bluffed their way past security, and retrieved the cup. The escape was chaotic. They triggered alarms, had to fight their way out. Barely made it to safety. But they had the cup. They destroyed it the same day. 5 down, Hermione said, exhausted but triumphant. 2 to go, Nagini and Harry. 7th year, the final Horcruxes. Voldemort, sensing his Horcruxes being destroyed, became desperate. He accelerated his timeline, attempted to return to power prematurely. In October of 7th year, he tried to recreate the graveyard ritual from the original timeline, kidnapping Harry, using his blood for the resurrection ceremony. But this time, Harry was ready. He and Hermione had prepared for this exact scenario. They'd notified Dumbledore, positioned allies, set a trap. When Voldemort's followers tried to abduct Harry from Hogsmeade, they found themselves surrounded by Aurors, Order members, and Dumbledore himself. The battle was brief. Death Eaters were captured or killed. And most importantly, Nagini, Voldemort's final Horcrux besides Harry, was destroyed by Hermione with Gryffindor's sword, imbued with basilisk venom. 6 Horcruxes destroyed. Only Harry remained. Voldemort, now mortal but still powerful, fled. He went into hiding, gathering what remained of his forces for a final assault on Hogwarts. The Battle of Hogwarts came in May, just as it had in the original timeline. But this time, Hogwarts was prepared. Dumbledore had fortified the castle. The Order had positioned fighters strategically. Students had been evacuated or armed with defensive training. And Harry and Hermione fought side by side, their soul bond allowing them to coordinate with perfect precision. They found Voldemort in the Forbidden Forest, preparing for a final stand. "Harry Potter," Voldemort hissed, "the boy who lived. You've destroyed my Horcruxes, exposed my followers, ruined my plans. But you cannot destroy me, because to destroy the final Horcrux, you must die. And you won't sacrifice yourself. You're too much a coward." "You're right," Harry said. "I won't sacrifice myself. But Voldemort, you made a mistake when you used my blood in your resurrection attempt. You tried it in my timeline, succeeded in creating a tether that kept me alive when you killed me. But in this timeline, you never got my blood. You never completed the ritual, which means when I destroy the Horcrux in my scar, I'll die permanently. Then you've lost." "No," Hermione said, stepping forward. "Because we found another way." She pulled out a vial, glowing golden, ancient magic contained in liquid form. "Phoenix tears," Hermione said, "combined with essence of dittany, mandrake restorative draught, and a dozen other ingredients. It won't destroy the Horcrux directly, but it will force it out of Harry's scar, separate the soul fragment from his body. And once it's separate, we destroy it like any other Horcrux," Harry finished, "without me dying." Voldemort's expression shifted to rage. "That's impossible. Horcruxes can't be extracted without destroying the container." "Usually, yes," Dumbledore said, emerging from the shadows. "But Harry carries a unique Horcrux, one that was never deliberately created, that latched onto him accidentally. Its bond to him is weaker than normal Horcruxes. With the right magical catalyst," he gestured to the potion, "it can be expelled." Harry drank the potion. The pain was extraordinary. His scar burned with white-hot agony. He screamed, falling to his knees. And then, something began to separate from his forehead. A dark mist, writhing, screaming with Voldemort's voice. The Horcrux fragment, forced out of his body. Hermione immediately cast Fiendfire. Controlled, precise, directed solely at the fragment. The dark mist burned, shrieking, and then dissolved into nothing. The final Horcrux was destroyed. Voldemort fell to his knees, suddenly mortal, suddenly vulnerable. His immortality was gone. He could be killed, and Harry, staggering to his feet, raised his wand. This is for my parents, for Cedric, for Sirius, for everyone you killed or would have killed. Avada Kedavra. Green light. Voldemort fell, dead. Finally, permanently, completely dead. Epilogue, 19 years later, King's Cross Station, platform 9 3/4. Harry Potter stood with his wife Hermione and their 2 children, James and Lily. Nearby, Ron and his wife Luna were saying goodbye to their own daughter. Ready for Hogwarts? Harry asked James, who was about to start his first year. Nervous, James admitted. What if I'm not in Gryffindor like you and Mum? Then you'll be in whatever house is right for you, Hermione said. Houses are just different paths, James. They don't define who you are. But you both chose Gryffindor, James pointed out. We did, Harry confirmed. Because we needed to be together. Because being apart would have been difficult. But that was our path. Yours might be different. James boarded the train, waving goodbye. When he was gone, Harry turned to Hermione. Do you ever regret it? He asked quietly. Giving up the timeline we came from? Everyone we knew from that version of the world? Never, Hermione said firmly. That timeline was war and death and suffering. This timeline, this one is peace. Fred Weasley is alive. Sirius lived to see you graduate. Remus and Tonks raised Teddy together. Cedric Diggory became an auror. Colin Creevey became a photographer. All those people who died in our original timeline, they lived. They had futures. That's worth any sacrifice. Even the soul bond, even being permanently tied to each other, Hermione smiled. Harry, the soul bond stopped feeling like a chain years ago. Somewhere along the way, it became a choice. I choose you, every day. Not because magic compels me, but because I want to. I choose you too, Harry said. Even without the bond, I'd choose you. I know, that's why it works. They walked out of King's Cross hand in hand, 37 years old, in mind if not body, war veterans who'd rewritten history, time travelers who'd saved a world that would never fully understand what they'd prevented, and they were happy. Not because their lives were perfect, not because the past didn't still haunt them sometimes, but because they'd done what they set out to do. They'd saved everyone. Cedric Diggory lived. Sirius Black lived. Remus Lupin lived. Fred Weasley lived. All the students who died at the Battle of Hogwarts lived. The war had been prevented. The timeline had been changed. The future had been saved. And Harry and Hermione, 2 children who weren't really children, 2 soldiers who'd fought a war that never happened, 2 souls bound together by accident and choice. They'd finally found peace. Together, Harry asked, using their old refrain. Always together, Hermione confirmed. And this time, it wasn't survival or necessity or magical compulsion. It was love. Pure, chosen, earned through years of fighting side by side, saving each other, saving the world. It was enough. More than enough. It was everything. The end. Let us know what you'd like to see next.